Pain heals. Chicks dig scars. Glory lasts forever.
This offseason, maybe even more so the next two combined, could completely, I was going to say redefine, but really define the Indiana Fever and who this organization is over the next decade, which, fingers crossed, is about how long Caitlin Clark will be around driving this team to championships. And one thing they absolutely cannot do, and we have the same people in the front office, Amber and Kelly, Amber Cox, Kelly Krauskopff, who, by the way, we know fled social media when she was under fire for things like, the signing of Dewana Disastrous Bonner. It's gotten lost. It's gotten lost in the late season success of the Indiana Fever and their deep playoff run. Kelly and Amber did not have a great offseason. Now, it looked that way initially on paper, to be fair, and I was one as well who was singing praises of some of those signings. Some of those signings. I actually liked the Dewana Bonner signing at the time. I didn't realize what an absolutely horrible POS of a human being that she was. Although I should have when I look around at the WNBA. But anyway, but the success, let's be clear about something because I think this is why it's getting lost. The success at the end of the season had nothing to do with the way the roster was built going into the season, right? The roster, because we all know how different that roster was at the end. No Sophie playing, no Caitlin Clark playing, Dewana Bonner not there. And instead, they picked up a bunch of players, oddly enough, crazily enough, and, not to pat myself on the back, but three of them were players I had recommended in the offseason. Odyssey Sims. I think I recommended Odyssey Sims during the 2024 season when she was coming back to the WNBA. I was like, go get her. And she went to Dallas and then to the LA Sparks. But Ariel Powers, who I think I also said during the season, and Aaron McDonald, all players. I said, Indiana Fever, go get them, go get them, go get them. They were forced to get them during the season because of all of the injuries. Look, Dewana Bonner was a disaster in every way, shape, or form. We could spend hours dissecting and breaking down how bad of a signing that turned out to be. And there is no possible way the Indiana Fever, and this is why I worry about the front office, why I worry about Stephanie White, who was Dewana Bonner's coach in Connecticut, because I look at it in one of two ways. Either the three of them, with all of their knowledge and understanding of what's going on in Dewana Bonner and the people they know, and Stephanie White having coached her, if none of you had an inkling this was a possibility, you should all be fired for incompetence. If this was a possibility and you signed her anyway to a max deal, you should all be fired for incompetence, right? So, I mean, for me, honestly, and I know it's going to be like a hot take to a lot of people that'll be upsetting, but if you were involved in signing Dewana Bonner, you have shown me you should not have your job with the Indiana Fever. You just shouldn't because you shouldn't. Natasha Howard, bad signing. Now, look, I'm not saying Natasha Howard doesn't have talent. I'm not saying Natasha Howard um, can't elevate a specific team in a specific role with the right roster. Okay. But I will say that Natasha Howard was a terrible signing for the Indiana Fever, that her and Caitlin Clark are not the type of players that are going to mesh well together. And I think we saw that in the limited games Caitlin Clark played. And to be fair, at the end of the season, yeah, Natasha Howard had some big games. And that's why I'm saying this is not a shot at, oh, Natasha Howard can't play. Natasha Howard's not that good. But do not bring Natasha How and by the way, I don't think she's going to settle for the level of money that the Indiana Fever are going to have available. Um, but we'll see. She cert she certainly does not mesh with Caitlin Clark. And when you have Caitlin Clark, the generational player, there's only one, you must build your team around Caitlin Clark. And that means, yes, it doesn't just mean going out and getting stars. It doesn't just mean going out and getting good players or players that you like. It means getting players that are going to complement what Caitlin Clark brings to your team so that the s- the sum of the parts, right? You know what I was getting at. I thought for a second, like, wait, am I saying this right? But right, you have to like, you could take someone who, let's just say, theoretically has the same exact talent of Natasha Howard, but brings it in a different way in terms of how she plays the game, right? Maybe she's faster, she's more athletic, she's not taking up post time away from Aaliyah Boston, right? She's better at spreading the court and shooting the three and just these things that complement what Caitlin Clark brings to the team. That is important. And we're going to get more on that in just a minute here because I just want to go through some of the things you may have forgotten because again, and well, here we go, please. Don't everyone unsubscribe because I'm not a Stephanie White fan. Look, I get she's here and I get that they had a deep run in the playoffs. Although again, and I've said this a million times, finally got players that I had said to take before and proving something that we've all known, that we talked about a lot. What for whatever reason, there are a lot of players that were not in the WNBA that are as good or better than the players in the WNBA, right? Like once you reach that level of just being a player, not someone just going to go to the All-Star game, but someone going to help a team, there's not a whole lot of difference between the top to the bottom of that group. Okay. And the Indiana Fever absolutely proved that. But everything about Stephanie White says she is not the coach for Caitlin Clark. And I don't mean that in a personal way, just the philosophy of what Stephanie White brings. I mean, don't forget that some of the comments she did make too that irk you a little bit, like Caitlin Clark getting injured was a blessing in disguise, right? Let's not forget about that. The fact, and we've talked about this numerous times, and I did video, right? I've got Caitlin Clark on video talking about it. I've got Stephanie White on video talking about it. So yes, she is trying. What like because I made a comment on that pass that I when I broke down Caitlin Clark's skill set and I did that 3/4 pass to uh, Paige Beckers, and I talked about how that's the type of pass Stephanie White is trying to eliminate from Caitlin Clark's game. That's a fact, and Caitlin Clark herself talked about it because she's on video talking about how there was this pass that she was going to throw, and I found the video of it that would have been a 100% completion for Caitlin Clark. Like it was in her wheelhouse. It's a basic pass for Caitlin Clark. Would have been an easy layup for Kelsey Mitchell, but Caitlin Clark didn't throw it because she remembered because Stephanie White had pulled her out of the game before on a different pass that she threw that ended up being a turnover. But as we all know, when you have Caitlin Clark and the passes she throws, you're going to live with the. There are dumb turnovers, yeah. The worst turnovers for me from Caitlin Clark are not her passes. It's sometimes where she gets. I think she just mentally checks out where she's focused more on what else is going on and she gets a little lazy for lack of a better word with her dribbling and will get her pocket picked because she's not really paying attention to the defender on her. But on her passes, not worried about that. You're going to get those, and the way she passes the ball, you're getting a net positive with those turnovers anyway. But Caitlin, we know because we heard from both, Stephanie White doesn't want her throwing that passes. Well, that changes everything about the game when you're bringing on Caitlin Clark. I don't think Stephanie White likes the logo threes either. We know Stephanie White likes to play Caitlin Clark off the ball. We know she likes to have Caitlin Clark stand in the corner. She likes to have Caitlin Clark setting picks, right? She likes to play slow, offensively speaking, right? So that's got to change as well. We'll see. I don't have a lot of faith that it will. I mean, Caitlin Clark may do kind of what she did with Christy Sides, because we see a little bit of that in the Olympics. I will say, to a degree, Caitlin Clark is not going to allow herself to have her game change too much by coaching or outside voices. So hopefully that happens with the Indiana Fever. And the other thing I want to talk about with the roster build, okay? Because you can't bring back players like Natasha Howard. It's not a fit. You have to go out and get players that fit with Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston. And one way to do that, and one way I think they could fit do the whole salary cap thing with Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston getting what they're going to get is go overseas, right? I think the WNBA is a lot more attractive now to overseas players because of the bump in the salaries, and I think there's a lot of talent over there that just one aren't getting the opportunity because WNBA teams, including the Fever, have been very limited in their scouting. Now they should have that in place. They should be having scouts over there for those games. And you also didn't, you had a lot of players who were like, I'm not going to the WNBA to play for that kind of money. But now they very well do it. So I think overseas absolutely has to be a priority. Hopefully, it's been something they've been prepping this entire offseason as they get ready for 2026. And then last thing I'll leave you with to kind of solidify, I don't know, confirm what it is I'm talking about is that was when Magic Johnson came into the league and he had a coach who absolutely wanted to change Magic Johnson's game. The way we've hearing that Stephanie White wants to do with Caitlin Clark. Magic Johnson stood up for Magic Johnson, and to be fair, his team, because his team was better with Magic playing like Magic, and they went head to head. It was one of those player versus coach. Magic won. The coach lost because guess what? Magic Johnson was a lot more important than the coach. Caitlin Clark is a lot more important than the coach. Okay. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, it's going to be really interesting to see how this offseason goes with this front office, with the track record that they have. So I am really, I'm both concerned and excited about what this roster could look like heading into 2026. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Appreciate it as always. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. You know the drill. Go of the day you deserve. Shout out to the 19. I will talk to y'all later.